Welcome and thank you everyone for joining us for another Twitter space. Today is September 13th, 2022, and this is episode 41 of the ledgerscale Internet of Value Open Forum. Now, ledgerscale Foundation was founded with two goals in mind. One, we want to provide educational services to not only our community, but to the entire digital asset community, and to help scale up the number of brains that understand how distributed ledger technology works. And two, we intend to one day run hardware to provide infrastructural support to the distributed ledger technology networks that we believe are ESG friendly and running a form of decentralized consensus. Now, we host these spaces Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, starting at 3:30 Eastern Standard Time. And on Wednesday, we host a focused topic space from 5 to 6 Eastern Standard Time. And if I could just ask if everyone could give us a follow on Twitter at ledgerscale. Turn notifications on so you know when we're going live, and as well as hit the little bubble at the bottom right and retweet and like the space so that hopefully other people can see this information and find it valuable in the future.
Yep, and as usual, we're here to just engage the community. So if anybody has a question, please raise your hand. If you're curious or wondering about something, I guarantee you somebody else is. And it is an open forum, but if you do choose to speak up, just please be cordial and welcome to the space.
I'm going to invite everybody up. Is it all right if you're not able to come up and speak right now? Or if anybody has any topics they'd like to start off with.
What's up, guys?
How's it going there, Tony? So far, so good.
So I got some news today regarding Celsius. They want to rebrand themselves, restructure themselves, the company, and they want to focus on just becoming a custodian for crypto, which I think is laughable considering that they are the ones that sold people's crypto without their permission.
Celsius. Which one is that?
The one that was over leveraged and is filing bankruptcy. It's kind of ironic. They're like, hey, listen, we couldn't handle ourselves and we over leveraged ourselves, and so that's why we're in bankruptcy. But if you trust us again, we'll just hold everything. Just that's a little too much.
That's ballsy.
Promise to do it. We promise to not do it this time.
I mean, hey, it's brazen. I mean, you'd think they would at least rebrand. I mean, if they have the machines, that's one thing. They've already got the, what you need, but and the know-how. But you'd think they would at least rebrand. Steak, you got your hand up?
Yeah, man. Good evening, everyone. Speaking of subjects to bring in, I know I've always been at least been talking about the legislation in the US, and the commissioner of the CFTC, Caroline D. Tham, just takes the piss in crypto, asking about what is a utility token. So I think I was pretty spot on with her visit to Europe in regards to utility tokens with the PACT law and with the Liechtenstein visit. So I think it's going to have major effects on the Ripple court case in a very positive light. So the CFTC is basically looking at how to deal with how to incorporate the set of laws for utility tokens. So even if the court case with the SEC goes either way, it's irrelevant if the CFTC is gonna incorporate legislation for utility. So I think it's very bullish for Ripple because both the exchanges that need to be registered with the SEC are usually utility tokens, and I think XRP is probably the biggest out of all of them.
What was the point that she made?
She was basically last week, she was in Europe, and I mentioned that she visited Liechtenstein for the MICA, the MiCA regulation in the EU. And after that, she visited Paris for the PACTI law, which is a law that describes how to incorporate legislation for a utility in a digital asset. And today she tweeted basically like, can you help me? What is a utility token? Let me find. I pinned it to the top with my reply to it. What are utility tokens? With like a smiley, like I don't know, even though she just went to Europe digging up all the information about it. And it's just taking the piss, which basically means that they're preparing the narrative to deal with utility tokens for the CFTC, which could only mean that it's about either the exchanges and XRP or XRP. So I think it's very relevant that we're gonna see some sort of follow-up, also because Gary Gensler said he's basically gonna pass the torch to the CFTC to deal with well, he said it deal with Bitcoin, but deal with crypto in essence. So it's just another follow-up that it was indeed about utility tokens.
That's interesting. I gave her a follow.
One thing I've also noticed recently in my marketing, in my search terms, I don't know if others of you have encountered it as well, but for me it's new language that suddenly people are starting to talk about a network state of instead of like a nation states. Has anyone else noticed that? That the language is changing?
I've not heard that, but that doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah.
This is like this century, the complexity way of thinking where you look at everything like networks that's going to take over. So yeah, that doesn't surprise me too much. It's interesting.
Yeah.
I'll have to look up the word and see what I find.
Yeah, a lot of new things. I think it's some kind of government term again to describe it, even though it might be very fitting. It kind of goes to show which people are already using it, and which people are still out of the loop and didn't get the memo, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, even in warfare, they call them networks that they're going after. It's not like the enemy or the axis of evil or whatever. It's like a network. We're going after this network, and they try and take apart the network, surgically.
I didn't know that. Yeah, so like a network cell or something of terrorists. I remember that back in the day. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Nothing else that's new, but apart from the court cases, which are probably going to happen in September for the large part, and then the follow-up for Ripple in November. But at least the other court cases will be predominantly dealt with in September. So pretty exciting time. And then also the Ethereum merge that everyone's speaking about. I'm hearing a lot of talk about OG Wills 51% attacking the chain and then dumping on retail. Even if with the court case, that could give a lot of enterprises on Ethereum a compliance issue. I think if that would happen, Ethereum would definitely first pump, but after that, probably get rugged. Kind of wondering where it's going, but it doesn't seem to look good if people can 51% attack it.
Whatever. I don't know. Um, what were you saying before that though? Because I did have a comment. Uh, with the networks and stuff.
Yeah, that they used to back in the day. I remember they called it a network terrorist cell or something like that. And kind of agreeing with you that yeah, they've used the term before in military, right?
Yeah, that's the complexity stuff. I forget what I was going to say. I don't know. In terms of the Ethereum and all the staking and 51%, I don't know, whatever. I stayed out of it from the beginning. It didn't smell right. Um, I'm sure I could have made some money, but I'm actually happy that I stayed out of it.
Yeah, me too. But I actually normally Ethereum pumping would basically be the start of a bull alt season, and I can't see it happening, to be very honest. I just think legislation will create um, basically open the floodgates for institutional money to come in for the Black Rocks of the world. And why would they want to buy at the peak and not at the bottom? So I think a big bottom is probably going to be imminent, but maybe I'm too bearish.
Who knows? It's I don't know that anybody serious would consider using Ethereum. That's the way I look at it. Like it's already a write off in my book. Like it's not. It's already in the non feasible box of technologies.
I would sort of I was in a space the other day and there were some prominent businesses in there, or yeah, I could say that. And pretty much their point was, and I brought up the point of the scalability and the fees and whatnot, and they brought up a good point because pretty much for business to be profitable, the market has to be there. And right now, Ethereum is the only blockchain that has the market. So, in a business perspective, it's actually the right choice as of right now. To if you're going to do anything on the blockchain, to do it on ETH because the market is there. Now, is the market going to be the same in a year or two? I don't think it will. But then that's probably when the businesses will sort of start to reevaluate where they want to do
Here's
their
here's the here's,
activities on.
I would like to comment on that from a compliance point of view. If legislation changes the nature of the game that enterprises, predominantly those that are operating in different countries around the world, um, have to be compliant with different sets of rules, or they can actually get it done through one set of core protocol, whatever token, coin, or protocol it will be, then every single enterprise will always go with full compliance because it has the least risk. So if Ethereum is not even close to complying with whatever legislation there is, and even if there's also the chance of a 51% attack, then regardless of the fact that you can build in smart contracts, um, this would actually hurt the bottom line of any enterprise that wants to use Ethereum for their business model. So I just don't see a future in it.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And another thing too, though, my mind goes to is Polygon. So we see businesses acquiring Polygon. So, and I'm not too knowledgeable about Polygon. I just know it's a layer two. Can this layer two be multi-chain? Can we do it like on another chain, like say, I don't know, XRP, Algorand, HBAR, any of these tokens? Does anybody know that off the top of their head? And if that's the case, then that would kind of definitely insinuate long-term thought processes with the market, given the stance that Ethereum still has no true clarity. I'll just check that out. I'll see if what Polygon's up to.
Did you know that Polygon is part of the Threefold Grid as well?
Well, there's something to it to where Starbucks and Disney want to put money into it, apparently.
Yeah. Cosmos, Harmony, Polygon, Research, Casper Lens, Dash, and Digibyte. I still
Yeah,
think
Casper.
that that Web3 thing with the infrastructure is like the complete opposite side of the coin of what Ripple is trying to do or is doing.
I agree. I definitely agree with that. And Steak, I got a question for you. Since there's kind of a conflict of interest with these layer twos being built on Ethereum, essentially, what does that mean? You know what I mean? Like, what is that? What if regulations come and the worst case happens with Ethereum? Do those businesses just miss out? Like, it's very
No,
interesting to
no,
think
it is.
about.
It's very simple actually, because first you get all the whales that take position and dump on retail because they don't believe in the tech. Then you get the legislation that hits, and if that is truly giving enterprises a problem with compliance, then they'll slowly move away to different projects as well because it's just too much of a hassle. And eventually, the most ignorant retailers will be holding the bag, sadly. Uh, it's I don't really see how they're gonna. Yeah, I don't see anything bullish about it, to be very honest. But probably in the short term, with the entire marketing machine that's going on with with Ethereum because it's everywhere. You know, it started with Vitalik being everywhere and suddenly being goofy and stuff and whatnot, even more than regular. I can see it pumping because there's appears to be a machine behind it pumping it right now, marketing left and right everywhere. Um, but the technicalities, the fundamentals, they don't change. It is what it is.
100%. Yeah, I agree.
I sort of have a question. I posted up on the Jumbotron what Jeremy Hogan stated. You guys can read it, sort of, I guess, define what that means.
Oh, that's just the. There's a whole series of legal things that should and could come out this week. I think both parties in the Ripple case had to file their summary judgment or something. I thought that was in November, though. They had to file something with the judge today, and then there's a chance the library case could come out, and then Judge Torres, I would assume, will affirm Judge Netburn's fourth or fifth order to turn over these emails. So that could happen this week, but I don't know that that's on a schedule. I'm not sure about that. I think there's something else. Somebody, like, I think John Deaton or somebody had a tweet about it and listed off all the things, like between now and the 19th. There's like 4 or 5 legal things that could come through. Yeah, go for it, Tony.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I pinned up something up top as well. So Schwab, Citadel, Fidelity, um, are got together to form a new digital asset exchange called the EDX markets. So yeah,
I saw that, but didn't Fidelity start their own exchange a few years ago? What happened to that?
I'm not sure, but this one is going to be
Good
led
point.
by Jamil Nazarali, and he's a what's it called? He was a senior executive at Citadel.
That name almost sounds familiar. That's a good thing. I mean, that's you want to talk about institutional players
Some of the
playing.
back, yeah, and you should look at some of the backers that also that include Sequoia and Paradigm.
Yeah, Sequoia's a big boy. Sequoia's probably the one hurting the Wall Street guys, helping them understand.
Yeah, I just think it's interesting that these heavyweights are joining forces to come out with a digital asset exchange.
I think it's a good sign. I mean, that's market maturity or maturation. I guess probably be the right word. Yeah, dude, these guys aren't gonna just like sit on the sidelines and watch a bunch of upstarts.
No way.
It
They're
says that the firm's trade. It says the firm's trading platform will be provided by the Members Exchange, a U.S. stock market owned by a consortium of financial firms, including some of EDX's creators.
ADX.
Yeah, that's what they're calling it. The new exchange.
Huh. I'm gonna have to read up on that one. I thought Fidelity had started their own exchange at the same time that ICE started Backed.
I think there was something on that, yeah, but it's funny because just well, yeah, yesterday, I think it was Fidelity. I want to say it was Fidelity. They announced that they are thinking of having Bitcoin custody trading for their clients, something like that.
So basically, they do this because they see that legislation is around the corner to mature the market.
I
So
wonder if Fidelity is just bringing in these other companies, these other brokerages and whatnot, into the thing that they started several years ago, which I can't remember the name of.
No, it's more of a don't have all your eggs in one basket. Same thing with ICE, right? Other than Backed, ICE is in two other digital asset exchanges that should be coming. I can't remember the names off the top of my head.
I wouldn't be surprised if they're in Coinbase.
BlackRock Fidelity backs Circle in 400 million funding round.
Well, what I was wondering was just how much of an upper hand is this exchange going to have with regulators, considering it has so many of the heavyweights.
Is this like USDC, which is like the Klaus coin?
It says that they are naming it in a statement they released. It says first of its kind exchange, giving investors safer, faster, and more efficient cryptocurrency trading.
Yeah, like in May this, I
it-
just looked it up. In May this year, Senator Warren and Smith sent letters to Fidelity over excluding Bitcoin from the 401k plans because it might be too risky for retirement savers. That seems to a very weird play concerning what just happened.
And also, they said today that the exchange will use technology built on by the stock exchange.
Yeah, because Fidelity's plan in May was to allow investors to allocate as much as 20% of their retirement portfolios to Bitcoin. Yes, they're coming for the retirement funds. That's what they're doing.
Yeah, of course, man. That's your biggest
Biggest egg, yeah, the golden egg.
investable assets. Like that's what that's the whole game is about that.
So we're gonna get all the boomer wealth. The boomer wealth.
Well, it's the pension funds, the 401ks. I mean, this is Fidelity and Vanguard. Like, they
So
dominate.
does this mean that we'll also get like a trust spot Bitcoin ETF? Because the SEC continuously rejected Fidelity's ETF on that, right? Even in January this year, they did that.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I figured there'll be an ETF at some point. I actually think it's a bad idea, but that's just my personal opinion. That doesn't mean I don't think realistically, I think we will get a Bitcoin ETF. Like, yeah.
They also, in November last year, became Canada's first institutional Bitcoin custodian, Fidelity.
Yeah. Dude, the Fidelity guys are smart guys. I left the company, but I left the company with a whole lot of respect for the company. I mean, I've got nothing bad to say about Fidelity.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Well, they wouldn't be doing it. You know, they wouldn't be doing this with ISO compliant tokens just yet. It would make sense for them to do it with Bitcoin because there is no regulations and they are still allowed legally, technically speaking, to still kind of have Bitcoin as an available thing for them to offer. Until the regulations hit and we get clarity and it states whatever it is, that entails, okay, we can't, since there's no messaging system, since that's not talked about, perhaps that could be part of the method to getting, because I mean, it's true. Like, no matter what, it's true when people talk about crypto. Most of the time, they talk about Bitcoin and Ethereum, and that's dope. You know, the more people in crypto, the better. But that's kind of this controlled, you know, curated space that we're in my opinion. And if you think about it, you wouldn't really want, if you're like, you know, big players in the game, not going to essentially want retail holding all the most valuable tokens there is on the market. You know, you kind of want to throw off the scent a little bit. You know, think .com bubble, but more, you know, less transparent, or more transparent in a way, but it's a way where it's more kind of subvertive. And if you don't do real research, I feel like it can leave some of these people behind. I think that's why they're using Bitcoin.
I just pinned a tweet to the top that I found from what was it, August last year. So had been a while, and it's in regards to Fidelity's Bitcoin stock to flow. The way they saw it was Bitcoin price at 1 million in 2026. Interesting, right? It's their own prediction.
Yeah, that's a mistake.
Quite a while.
Can see if you can find, because my computer, I've been having to restart it. See if you can find something about when, because it was a couple of years ago that Fidelity put $1 billion on the table, if I remember right, to start their own crypto exchange.
I just
Yeah,
saw
I
could be.
never really heard anything else about it. It was at the same time that ICE put $1 billion down to start Backed.
Let me see if I can find it because I'm going back in by date. So I'm gonna have to look at it. So yeah.
So remember, man. Technically, no digital assets are ISO 20022 compliant, right? It's the financial institution that would be using the messaging standard of ISO 20022, and so in the sense of like how you said, Bitcoin isn't ISO compliant. Well, if a financial institution who is ISO 20022 compliant wanted to use Bitcoin, I mean, they still could. But it doesn't make Bitcoin ISO compliant because technically no digital assets are ISO compliant. But I mean, it's a doable thing in a sense. So, because I just want to remind and just for everybody else, I don't want anybody to get confused. Think
Basically,
that
the ISO part is just about the information surrounding the payment. It had nothing to do with the unit of value. Could be dollars, euros,
Yeah.
yen, whatever.
I always forget. Honestly, I always forget. I get wrapped up because I'm used to talking, you know, amongst. I always forget it's a learning space. I because I'm used to talking amongst people that kind of like they already know basically, and if it's like you know type deal. But you're right. No, it's the messaging system that the institution is able to play ball with. Right. It's not the actual token itself, and that's to be more specific. Yeah, that's true.
but I
But I
I
guess
do financial institution that are using the ISO 20022 standard will probably use the most efficient payments rails that they could probably use. And so I do
Right.
believe
That's what
classes.
I was going to clarify right now. Like the reason why I say that about Bitcoin is due to the actual speed and the payment rails, which is a big thing.
It,
I should be more
so,
more specific, I guess.
Thank
I saw some
you.
interesting Bitcoin archive post from March last year that there were 8 Bitcoin ETF applications in the USA, not just Fidelity, Goldman Sachs, Skybridge, Morgan Stanley, VanEck, Valkyrie, Wisdom Tree, Bitwise. So if Fidelity is just going to be the first to do this, maybe the rest of them will follow.
That graph looks interesting, but I'm looking at the pumps and it doesn't correlate with their projected. Obviously, it's not going to line up 100%.
No. I thought it was funny. It's their own prediction.
Yeah,
They got to
it's
remember,
well, of
JP Morgan
course.
doing this since like 2015, just without everybody realizing.
Yeah.
One more time. I barely heard you, Dev.
Oh, I said JP Morgan's been doing, like Fidelity coming into the market and stuff. Like JP Morgan's been here since 2015.
Oh yeah. These guys.
They've been around since before that. Same with Goldman Sachs.
Yeah, them too. Yeah. Tony, though, you got your hand raised, man. Go ahead.
Yeah, Karma, I looked into what you said about Fidelity. So in 2019 was when they launched that. It was called the Fidelity Digital Assets. It was their own crypto exchange. And it's pretty much, it launched very quietly, but there's nothing really new on it.
And we'll see. I wonder if them working with these other companies is kind of how you get further into a company's development and you like bring in more partners. Like all of those are not just partners that can put money on the table. They also have talent, like the type of talent you would need, lawyers and stuff, and financial professionals. And they also have trade flow. So they're like customers. So it's like bringing an investor in who's also going to be your customer, or a customer of the business. Strategically, I think that would make sense.
It was funded in 2018.
Yeah, it's been a few years. I never really heard anything else about it. You've heard stuff about ICE and Backed. It was around the same time as that. If I remember right.
But the number one thing for me is this exchange that these heavyweights are forming. How much what's the word? I can't think of the word, but yeah, okay. So how much of an advantage are they going to get from regulators, considering how many donate to these politicians? Because you don't have
Well,
bigger names than this, and it's just think about how much of an advantage they're going to get.
my perspective is that predominantly like asset management funds like BlackRock that have been pumping up the real estate market since 2017 in the West to like double the prices that it is right now might actually dump it on retail. Uh, and they just want to, I think that they're going to dump a lot of things on the S&P 500 and just dump crypto as well and then buy in when everything's bleeding. And then they pump it back up.
And there is a part on the statement that they released that says by leveraging a network of select digital custodians to safeguard assets, trades will be netted and settled on the blockchain for greater speed and efficiency at lower cost, eliminating the need for expensive bilateral settlement.
That just means they're going to go to more of a network model instead of a how do you say that? They're actually going to use the blockchain as more of a centralized method, like
Multi-party computations.
Yeah, it's a clearinghouse.
Leveraging blockchain and NPCs. That's the article from Forbes.
Literally thinking of XRPL.
What's NPC?
Non-player character? Is that? You said NPC?
I don't think it really says that.
I'm thinking party clearinghouse.
NPC, like with a Martin, not with a Nicholas.
Oh, thank you.
I'm thinking multi-party clearinghouse. What is that supposed to mean?
Yeah, I pinned the article. I'm looking into it. It's an older article which I'm reading, so mind you, this is looking into it right now. Yeah, we're looking for a
So
utility settlement coin.
They're not done with partners or investors. Additional market participants are expected to partner with EDXM over time.
Where are you reading this? I want to read this too.
It's an article. I'll pin it up on top.
Yeah, I want to read it too. Because everything you guys are talking about, it basically describes in my mind what XRPL is capable of doing.
I'm just putting. I am just going to an OG Bitcoin space right now and looking for all the on Telegram, searching for all the posts in the past about Fidelity. So that's the thing I'm doing right now. I pinned something to the top.
Yeah, this is interesting, man, because these are huge heavyweights that, not to get political, but they have in their pockets a lot of politicians that could potentially be the ones who come out with these regulations later on.
Yeah, I think that's the most interesting article, the last one. I got one from Forbes, you got one from Business Wire, right? I'm gonna read that one.
And they're using tech already available on the stock market, so that's interesting.
So MPC, multi-party compulations. Multi-party compulations.
They're also
and
here's the thing. They're also talking about here's the thing. They're also talking about a USC, a utility settlement coin, including Credit Suisse, ING, and UBS. Is that just another way, another abbreviate? Is that just another abbreviation that they want to use XRP?
Well, yeah, they're not gonna directly say it. That's what I'm saying. Like this.
They can use something else, though, right, Karma?
They could, yeah, but are they really going to? I don't know.
These enterprises include J.P. Morgan, Bank of New York Mellon, Banco Santander. I've seen that on that.
Yeah.
I've seen that on that picture of BlackRock using Ripple, right? All those names in a.
Those are all Ripple partners, bro. You literally named off a few Ripple partners.
This is a funny article, the Forbes article, because it's actually like January 2020. It's actually a very older article.
Yeah, I'm reading that Forbes article right now. I'm gonna check out the Business Wire one right now.
They're talking about zero knowledge proof in it as well. It's kind of weird.
For what? What do you guys
I think this news of these heavyweights forming this exchange just got swept under the wire. I mean, under the rug, like just to not get attention or not draw too much attention, especially with the CPI news today.
That's what.
I was in a space today with Sauce, and they were kind of like discussing about what makes a project that they could smell the room. These were some Ethereum OGs, and they said, yeah, we can smell the room in a spaces whether a project's gonna win or succeed or not. And they basically said the number one reason for a good project to succeed is the community that it has. And I argued against it, that I thought that the use case and actually enterprises adopting it would not be
They didn't
something you'd
understand
see.
that. They didn't
Yeah, that
understand that.
you don't see
They
that in
thought,
any.
bro, they thought I was shilling, but they didn't know
Really?
what coin I was even shilling. Yeah, I played back. I
You're rugging a little bit from me,
was shilling
Sauce.
a coin and all that, and it's like I don't even know what I'm shilling. Like,
Yeah, it was weird, right? Because like there are projects out there that are just working on enterprise adoption. They don't focus on retail at all. And then you would completely exclude them. And there are projects, I thought you mentioned that are fully into NFTs and Web3 and full on marketing, but it's just a bullshit
it
chain. Doesn't do anything.
work. Yeah, network's completely trashed. Like exactly, and that's what I was trying to reiterate to these people is that it doesn't matter right now that Ethereum has made most of the market. They're so worried about miners. I'm trying to explain to them you need to worry about the
No, but
developers.
if Fidelity and these other big players are moving the pension fund money into Bitcoin, that's a power move.
But are they? I mean, are they really though? You know what I mean? Is it just like is it? Are they really like? Is it their real
Well,
intentions or you
here's the
know?
here's the funny part. We're about to find out this month, the shades of the legislation are forming. We don't have to wait for a long time.
Yeah, bro. Hey, I mean, hey, like, hey, if it's not on the TV, don't buy it, right? Right. I only buy things I see on the TV. And if it's on the TV, you're seeing. I
Well,
think it's you, Steak, that you'll see
So,
that's the
s-
comet's tail.
someone should create an old Telcel video with all these shit projects that have already died out or rug pulled. You get two for one, you know. Anyone remember those commercials from Telcel back in the day?
I can say this. I think Steak, you're the one asking. When this is probably 2014, 15, I had two different, before the Twitter thing, anyway, if you were doing anything in insurance and blockchain, you used to run into me. And so I had two different Fortune 500 companies. I had two meetings with each of them. And these guys had, they had really done their research. I mean, they had read all the forum posts. They had followed like all of the stuff that I had put online. Like they had. I mean, I even told the one guy, I was like, "Dude, this man does his research. Like, I'm surprised that you are aware of like each one of those things, all of which were pertinent to the insurance situation, right?" But um, these big companies, like they do their work.
Yeah, they're thorough. Yeah, I agree.
And I think that there was some people I heard back then complain that Goldman Sachs was ripping them off, and I guarantee you J.P. Morgan had people lurking and might not have identified as such, but it just it seems very reasonable to me. Do I have any proof? No, but I mean, in terms of the Ethereum thing, you can look at the videos with Lubin saying J.P. Morgan was involved before Ethereum even launched. So
Yeah,
I
I see
mean,
your point.
yeah, that's why I say maybe they're just doing it to kind of just throw people off the scent of what really matters in the long run. Because Steak made a good point. Do you really think they're going to buy the tops? Like, do you think they're really going to buy the tops of these coins? Or, I mean, these are bad entry points, regardless. I mean, think about the percentage gains. Unless it goes to 100,000 Bitcoin, there's no point to invest right now the way it is. Yeah, but if you can invest in XRP, XLM, blah, 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 5, 6 other coins that are fast and more efficient, that are cheap, you're going to get crazy percentage gains. On top of that, they're more scalable and efficient, the whole 9 yards. You know, I think maybe that's what they're doing. Like you just made a good point, Karma. Like they've like, not to like be conspiratorial, just look at what's happened. You know, that's happened. That actually happened. You could look at that, look at the video, and that's a fact. You know, same thing with ETHgate. You know, these are things that have happened and are going on right now. I don't know.
Well, how do I say that? I think that it's not like JP Morgan and the maybe some of the hedge funds, but not like JP Morgan and stuff. Like they got in on ETH from the beginning. You know, they had to be on the pre-sale. I mean, they had to be. They'd be morons not to be. And I don't take these for stupid people. If they were going to put that much effort into it, of course they would be. So I don't think they're like buying on the open market. They're doing what Wall Street does. They created a market. There's liquidity. They sell into it. That's how it works. Yeah. I mean, they made a market out of nothing, right? It's the same thing as like making an IPO, right? There's nothing trading, and all of a sudden now there's a market for the stock, right? So you create the market, and then you make money off of the liquidity flowing through the market. In this case, they got some of the underlying asset. They often do that with IPOs. I'm telling you, the thing smelled like an IPO the way it was conducted back then. It really did. I never got that sense with XRP, but with Ethereum, I absolutely did. You could probably even go search the forums and find places where I was talking about that back then. Just didn't seem right. Cash, I can't click on the comments there, but I saw what you were saying. I guess all I can say is like not everything's about money, and it didn't seem right. And in hindsight, it doesn't look like it was right. So, you know, I don't have any trouble going to bed at night. I certainly, if you get hit with some sort of fraud, you're out of the financial services industry for life. Like this is pretty much what I know. I can't. That's a risk I'm not willing to take. And especially back then, when Ethereum was nothing, it was nothing. So it just wasn't a risk I was willing to take. And I think
No, I wasn't judging your evaluation at the time, right? I think you probably made a very pretty much accurate assessment of it, right? I was just saying, like, if we're really going to look at it in hindsight, 100%, I would have bought it and got out of it regardless of the ethical concerns personally. But no, that's what I was just saying.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so upset. I hold on to my Bitcoin back in the day, but I mean that's only for financial, reasons, not anything. I'm the same way. I missed out on plenty of opportunities that I know I missed out on for sure. But life is what it is, right?
Hey, Kasha, I just saw that comment. That's a good point about Bitcoin rolling in after the retirements and all the boomers, I guess. Yeah, that's a good point. I see it.
No, I just said that, Sauce, because at the end of the day, the big houses that are kind of leading those efforts to take in pension funds, excuse the noise, people, but it's being led by Bitcoin maxi type philosophy people. So it's probably likely that that's where they're going to kind of push most of that activity.
I had a question. Can the XRPL be utilized without XRP?
Not really, because you got to pay. You can use very, very, very minimal amount of XRP.
Yeah,
I forget. I think for one XRP you get like
30
what 20,000 transactions or something.
I think it was more than that, but yeah.
Okay, so then on a technical level, you cannot use the XRPL without XRP. It just doesn't work.
Correct.
Correct.
You got to pay your transaction fee, which is currently like point, what is it, 0.00012.
Okay, that's what. But I had somebody ask me, and they tried that. They asked me in a way that made it sound like as if you could, and I was like, yeah, I don't know, but let me go double check. And I knew you guys would know, so that's why I popped in here and asked. But that's what I thought.
But you could, like you said, he could make an IOU token, right, and send an IOU token back and forth between somebody, and nominally spend almost zero, right, for thousands of transactions.
Which is a very interesting concept, because if you incorporate that on a bigger scale with like an enterprise, that's like what else do you want right there? Like, I mean, this blows out of the water a lot of other technologies. We can't just keep forking Ethereum and Bitcoin, plain and simple. That's my opinion, of course. I mean,
the vast majority of the value you're moving does not have to be denominated in XRP. You just got to pay that little tiny transaction fee, and that's it.
Welcome up, Chris.
Hey, I just wanted to add to that. If you want to use the XRPL without XRP, first you'd have to be able to activate your wallet, and then because you're not going to use XRP, you need some to set trust lines as well to be able to transact in anything else. And then you're going to run into the issue that you're going to rely on liquidity on pairs that don't involve XRP, and you wouldn't be able to use things like auto bridging and pathfinding because they're likely to use XRP to give you better deals to find liquidity in different pairs. And so not using XRP, I don't know what the reason would be, but it would put you at a major disadvantage of trying. And then, yeah, you'd need to have one XRP sitting there just to cover transaction fees, which you could probably go a lifetime with one XRP. Light usage, probably never burn through it.
Yeah, I'm not sure who asked that question, but usually that conversation comes up when kind of from detractors of XRP. And so they're really referencing RippleNet, right? And saying, well, you could use RippleNet without XRP, right? But as y'all stated, like you can't technically use the XRP ledger completely without XRP.
that's really interesting, because on other networks, they have different transaction styles. So we probably don't need to spend too much time on it, of course, but I mean, the transaction styles on different chains also kind of speak to essentially what they can be more used for, right? Because when it comes down to financial transactions, this is the well-known thing, psychologically speaking, humans don't want to deal with dust transactions when it's going to come down to their financial payments. Like when you open up your bank account, you don't want to see dust amounts. You just want to see, because we're so accustomed to cents and dollars, and that's going to have to be mimicked through crypto. And if you have a dust system with your ecosystem, I don't think psychologically it'll pan out too well to the consumers.
I mean, you can handle that just through whatever you're using to interact with the XRPL with, right? If you wanted to onboard users and cover the fee, so you'd have like partial custody for like multi-sign or something, you could definitely make it look like they've never touched XRP, right? You could have the XRP hidden. You could allow them to use pathfinding and auto bridging. You could set up all kinds of pairs between different tokens. You could definitely hide it, but you are taking away some of the custody right? Because you to hide it and add all those features, and there's probably a lot of applications where that would be great, right? If you wanted something powered by the XRPL, your users are probably not looking for total custody of their keys. They probably don't even want to know that there's keys to begin with, right? They just want to log in. So yeah, you could definitely hide XRP and have an application powered by the XRPL. Definitely.
Okay, that makes some sense. But I don't think that the guy that asked me the question. I think the reason why he asked, which I'm glad you guys brought all that up, because that was stuff that he didn't even bring up when he was asking his questions or even thought of. But he was mainly specifically asking. He said because so many projects use the ledger, but the price stays low. But that would be the simple fact of what you guys just said, right? Is that you can make 30 transactions on one XRP. So that would at least I'm thinking in my head.
Hey, I want to go back to what you just said, Chris. And so basically, how the feasibility of offline transactions is what you just mentioned with that kind of front end system. The feasibility of it, I mean, do you think that's a realistic thing to pull off from your perspective?
Yeah, the offline transactions kind of gets it's such a terrible name. It's not really that you're performing a transaction offline, it's that one of the parties in the transaction is offline. Somebody's still online, right?
Yeah,
So
true.
we can do it, and I can send you money while we're like, just chilling or whatever. I don't have a connection. I can send you the money, and the transaction can be performed through your wallet. I don't understand it completely, but I just know that it's been marketed poorly.
Yeah, that's true, because it's not completely offline, and it would give people a misconception of what's really going on. And that's true.
Can't there be a time delay? Like, let's say both your wallet and my wallet are offline. We do the transaction. You have the transaction blob. I don't know. You hang on to it for a day or two. You finally get back to where there's internet. You submit the transaction blob, and then it's processed. But the whole time you knew that you had the transaction blob.
That makes the most sense. It's like having a subscription that is supposed to be due on that day, and it just auto takes the money out of your bank account. But it'd be obviously a different means of, it'd be obviously more long term. And yeah, that's the same process, same premises.
Well, I mean, it would probably have to be accounted for on like the individual devices, right? So like my device would have to remember that, let's say I started out the day with $100 and I gave you $10. Well, right. My device would have to know I'm only good for $90 now.
Well, Karma,
the thing is though,
have you heard about the Solana phones?
No.
Okay, so Solana said that they're going to make phones basically like that run on Solana essentially. Now, I think that they're just basically taking money away from investors, because the phones are selling are $100. They're obviously not appealing to third world countries, but if you really, really think about it, there's smartphones all over the world. They all run some form of Android, and it's not that powerful. And for the XRP, for transactions and for other tokens, you don't need that much processing power to make transactions happen. So essentially, we could do these pseudo offline transactions, as we're talking about right now, through the form of smartphones that we have. But if they have some form of operating system that's able to work with it, it makes the most sense, in my opinion. And that way you can kind of have everything right then and there. So you literally just turn people's phones into a wallet, and they could also be attached to a bank. And that's the decentralized banking system.
So Karma, in your hypothetical there, one user's still online. It's the same thing.
Eventually they get back online.
Right, but
it's no different than me. It's no different than me signing an offline transaction on my Raspberry Pi, and then putting it on a USB stick, and then handing it to you, and then you go trekking about for a month, and then eventually you get back to where you're on the internet, and you put the stick in a computer that's got internet access, and you submit the blob.
And it just takes the money away. Simple as that.
Right, but that delay that delay is off chain. Nothing actually happened until one user's online, right? So
Yeah.
whether or not you initiated the chain that will eventually cause it, nothing has actually happened. Nothing's on chain. Nothing actually happens until one of them are online. So it's actually not anything blockchain before it hits the internet, right?
But couldn't
Until
the
you submit the
NFC,
block, yes, 100%.
couldn't the NFC inside the phones eventually make it possible to do 100% offline transactions? Like if you have a
Exactly.
yeah,
So we
yeah.
have RFID chips in phones as it is. So essentially, you could just do bump methods of payment where there's literally very little energy cost. You
Yeah,
could do
but
P2P transactions. Yeah, but I know it's a little crazy, but
what Chris is saying is accurate. I could
oh
like
right, yeah,
sign a transaction and I could like RFID or NFC the transaction blob to you, right? Since you're the one that wants to collect the money,
yeah.
you're
But
the
the
one that's
delay
going to
though,
want to, huh?
the delay though, that's what Chris is talking about. Is that there'd be that delay. Even granted, when one person gets to the internet first, to have you, there would still kind of be like a little bit of a delay.
Right,
Well,
but
you can
nothing's
wait.
been performed,
Well, so
right? Like
You can wait to submit the transaction blob to the network, but at some point you're going to have to submit the transaction blob to the network,
here's the
or
issue with
it's
something.
never going to process. Like
If
it's just not.
so say I'm getting something from a vending machine, right? And we'll use the example of what they used 2 years ago. So if I scan it and I pay for the item, right, and I get the item from the vending machine, if I never connect to the internet again, right? Say my phone is offline. Um, say something happens to you or you break your phone and you never have access to that wallet again. Will that vending machine ever know or ever actually receive the payment for the transaction? I wonder.
It depends on who submits the blob. Currently, the way most people think about it is it's my wallet. I sign the transaction. I get the blob. I submit the blob to the network. The network processes the transaction. That's the current. So this quote unquote offline is I sign the transaction. I hand you the blob. You're the one that's going to collect the money. Whenever you submit that transaction blob to the network, the transactional process and you'll collect. So it's just a different sort of process flow.
The problem is in between the time that you submitted that blog and it goes to the actual blockchain, you could have had another wallet just double spend that same money until it gets reported on the chain. So it's a potential problem there is where it really lies.
well, that's
No,
not
because there's a
there. That
Chris,
using the
correct
current
me if I'm wrong, but the sequence number would prevent that, right?
well, there wouldn't be a number for the offline transaction because it's not a transaction. So using double spend is a not a very good term for this situation because nothing's been spent until it's been submitted. And all you're doing is carrying instructions to go ahead and perform this transaction for both parties once you hit the internet. Before that happens, you're not a transaction whatsoever in any kind of form. It's not blockchain, right? It's not layer one. It's completely done by an application on its own to just perform the transaction later. So in terms of blockchain, it hasn't even acted yet.
Yeah,
yeah,
you're
just be
right, Chris. But I'm
software.
just saying if I'm buying apples though, and or selling apples, and I accept the blog, right, and give you the apples, you actually walked off with my apples, right, and the process hasn't been to the chain yet. So I could go to another Apple store and do it, another Apple store and do it, and they're
No,
gonna
not
keep taking the
necessarily.
blog. Sure, you could.
No, not necessarily. Because think about it like this. So
Until it
say
hits the chain, it's not a transaction. That's what Chris is trying to get you to understand. Like,
I know,
there's
I get
not.
that. But let me try to help you understand from this perspective, though. Say it's a piece of software, right? And it just has a normal function of just reducing the amount of money or XRP or whatever it is in that wallet. So essentially, yeah, you're making transactions and it's not on chain yet, but the software still has memory of what's there. So essentially, you can go through that balance and spend it all, and then you can kind of solve the double spend problem that way. It's called the Condorcet paradox, and they have that for voting systems way back in the day for bad actors, the Gossip Protocol. and our hash graph goes into that as well. Not so much for offline payments, but just for the purpose of making transactions trusted.
This is still possible. Like if you had two phones, both of them have Zum on it, this feature exists. I keep one not connected to the internet. I perform all these offline transactions. Meanwhile, I have the other phone on the internet, moving that funds out of there before my offline wallet goes online, or before the other party puts theirs online. But I don't think it'll ever be a thing to ever have offline payments where one or where both parties are offline. It'd be way too much risk, and it probably wouldn't work anyway. Because that other party would be carrying around instructions that would require your keys to perform the transaction, and you wouldn't want that. You'd want it settled immediately and changed, right? Because I'm assuming that there would be some kind of temporary key or key change in the process.
Good point. Good point.
It's a really interesting subject because it's a requirement in the specs of every single CBDC. All of them.
That's interesting. I didn't know that. So it has to be transactable with both parties offline? Is that how that's going to work?
Like peer-to-peer trust or something?
Yeah, I mean, imagine like, every few years we get a hurricane and, we'll lose power for 2 weeks.
Yeah, and if anybody's on the YouTube, I think we're going to close the YouTube out right now. So if you're still watching and would like to participate, please feel free to come over to the Twitter.